Most of us want financial freedom, but what does that actually look like when you follow Jesus? Today's guest is someone who truly walks the walk and talks the talk when it comes to faith and money. Kyle Blackwell is a certified financial planner and founding partner of Purpose Wealth Management with over 17 years of experience helping people steward their money with clarity and purpose. He's also been recognized by Forbes as the top next-gen wealth advisor. But what makes Kyle stand out isn't just the accolades, it's his heart for helping Gen Z align their finances with their faith. He wrote a book called Purpose in Every Paycheck, which is phenomenal, by the way, and developed an app called the Purpose Planner, which is specifically designed to help Gen Z manage their money in a biblical, God-honoring way. He spent 12 years at Edward Jones before founding Purpose Wealth, and today he combines deep financial expertise with the biblical principles to help his clients live in peace. He's also a husband, a dad, board member, faithful member of his local church, and I think you'll quickly see why he is one of the most trusted voices in faith-based budgeting. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Cool. So you've built this whole thing, right? You have a book, you have an app, you were an incredibly successful financial planner for 17 years. When you look at Christians today, why do you think it's so hard for Christians to connect their faith and money? Why do you think there's such a big tussle with it?
I think a lot of it is driven by fear, especially in today's world. We're 24-hour news cycle, and everywhere you turn, there's a hype machine going on. And so fear drives your decision making. And even though we live as Christians with a faith mindset, we tend to forget that when it comes to our money. And Jesus writes about money in the Bible more than most things. And I think the reason for that is because he knows that it's part of our heart, and it controls our emotions, and it's something that we need to be mindful of.
So what do you think was the first sort of introduction to you in money?
Well, I think the first one was going to church on Sundays with my mom, and she would put it in the pink little envelope and her tithe, and I asked questions about that, and she shared what that was about. And so that was, in my formative years and really important to understand the meaning behind that. And then the investment side really started in middle school. I just had a fascination with learning about companies and the stock market and how the public markets worked. And so...
So you were a nerd?
A little bit, yeah. And my mom, she saw that in me. My dad was helping me on the sports side, and my mom tried to encourage me on the finance side because she knew that was a passion of mine. So she would bring home Forbes magazines and Barron's magazines, and I would read through those. So yeah, you could call it pretty nerdy.
Pretty nerdy. And so obviously a huge part of your career was in financial management. How did you first decide that, hey, this is what I wanted to do?
Well, yeah, I said, I was reading those books or those magazines in middle school. I remember my freshman year of high school, we went around, we had a career class. The teacher went around the room asking what you wanted to be when you grew up. And I want to be either a baseball player or a stockbroker. And I said that in high school as a freshman, went on to play baseball in college, had 2 shoulder surgeries, so that ended pretty quickly. But I still had a passion for investing, and I wanted to get into the industry. And so I started doing some internships, and initially I was thinking more Wall Street. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's a little chaotic. Running around the floor of the New York Stock Exchange wasn't really something that, after learning more about, something I wanted to get into. I wanted to help more people on a personal level in my local community.
What did they call, was it called the pit? Is that where people used to do all of that stockbrokering stuff? In those chaotic finance movies, you see people just yelling and screaming?
Yeah, just the floor of the exchange.
Okay, the floor.
Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
The trading floor.
Well, so obviously you're a Christian. A lot of the principles that you get, about how you manage money, how you approach it, comes from Scripture. And my question is, what does the Bible actually say about saving and investing? Why is that such an important thing?
Well, it speaks first about giving money back to God and trusting Him fully with it, because we're just stewards, we're managers of it. Everything belongs to God. And that goes beyond money. We talk a lot about money, but it's every area of our lives. And that's something that I didn't really, on a personal level, had a difficult time understanding on the money side. I had a harder time on the other gifts and talents and resources that I had. And so that was the disconnect that I had to learn the true meaning of stewardship that went beyond money. It went to the other talents and gifts that God's provided.
And so At the start of your answer, you said something about like giving things back to God. What do you mean by that?
Well, it speaks about the tithe, and tithe literally means tenth. I'm not sure where that came about necessarily, but I do know that it's important because it's in the Bible, and the Bible is truth. And so I think that personally, if God owns it all, a tenth of what you earn is a pretty small percentage. But I think it's enough that people still need to realize that you have to live open-handed and trust God with your finances.
Okay, so a 10% of my money, is that before or after taxes?
I actually struggle with that. I said I didn't struggle with the giving part. I struggle with the number beyond 10. I knew 10 was biblical, but as my wife and I began, giving faithfully, we knew deep down that we needed to go beyond our tithe. And I even remember asking a pastor, it has to be somewhere in the Bible, like tithe and offering. There has to be like a number, a definitive number beyond the tenth, a tenth. That was pretty difficult for me because I'm super analytical and I wanted a magical formula to this. But I think that's God testing us and saying, okay, well, how much does this person truly believe in being the steward and me, as in God being the owner of it all. So, and then also, to an earlier point that I failed to properly address, it's your first fruits, so that's biblical as well. So giving before taxes or money going into your 401k or paying the bills, that's something that I've had clients ask me about as well, especially when they're the younger ones that are just starting out.
So if you make $50,000 a year, you're giving $5,000.
Right.
Okay, got it.
That's right.